Well, we're joined today by Mr. Joe Ford. Hello, sir.
Hello, good morning.
How are you?
Well, I've just recorded a 2-hour podcast about a particularly agonising episode of Star Trek The Next Generation. So I'm very pleased to be here.
Oh, come on, what was the episode? You have to tell us.
It was The Price. It featured Councillor Deanna Troy oiling a man up in the... Do you remember that one?
I do, actually, surprisingly.
Terrible, isn't it? Awful.
It's not one of my faves, not going to lie.
We guested on a Star Trek podcast a while ago.
We
do you
did.
remember? Now, I don't really watch Star Trek, so...
I thought you looked the sanest of the three of us.
Well, thank you.
That doesn't say much, does it, really?
Yeah. And I went along on the podcast to accompany Paul and a bit more support. And what was the episode that they had us
gosh,
watch
I can't remember, but it was one in which Deanna Troy again, one of her episodes, in which she was kind of mind raped or something.
Yeah.
It was a whole ethical
Violations. It's from
Violations,
season 5.
that's it.
Yeah.
Well done. Yeah,
I'm in deep, all right? I'm in very deep.
Yeah. It was a good one, but it was not the most light-hearted topic to discuss, if you know what I mean. It was quite heavy, but it was good. It was all right. It was good fun.
What did you think of that one, Jeff? And I was like, well, having not watched Star Trek in a long time,
many years.
I'm not sure this was the best reintroduction, but it was good. So, Joe, tell us. Oh, sorry, you were going to say.
Well, no, sorry. I was just going to say I'm fast coming to the conclusion, despite the fact that I've got a Star Trek podcast. That Star Trek: The Next Generation isn't very good at all.
Really.
And that was my into Star Trek, but as I'm going back and rewatching them all, it's definitely telly from the early 90s, that's for sure.
It is. Yeah, it's funny you say that, because I was thinking about this the other day. This is something that keeps me awake at night. You know, when you get those hot takes on Twitter and someone says, what sort of take is going to have you, like, with arrows coming at you, and all that sort of stuff. And I was looking at it and I thought, do you know, I'll probably say something like, most of The Next Generation is mildly average at best. But the thing is, those few episodes where they just elevate it are so good, and the characters are so good, and the actors are so good that they pull you through the really bad stuff, and you just want to spend company in them. At least that's what I think, anyway.
Don't you hate those things on Twitter?
Yes.
With the picture
That's
of
why
all the
I
knives
think
coming
about
at
them,
people.
but I never respond to them.
Because it's full of arseholes trying to be controversial in the lamest of ways.
It's almost like, do you know what? I'm not getting enough likes on my page. I'm gonna do something. I'm gonna do something. Everybody's gonna respond to.
It breaks up all the pictures of those bloody Blu-ray covers that everyone pollutes my timeline with. I'll tell you.
What are you saying?
I'm saying I've got it and you haven't. That's what they're saying.
Yeah, that's it exactly. Look at that guy.
All dressed up as I'm so pleased it's arrived.
I got mine from HMV. I didn't get mine from Amazon. So you're still waiting for yours.
I got mine last week. I'm just not going on about it.
I think mine came last week.
I've received post. Amazing. I'm winning at life.
Oh dear.
Sorry, I feel like we've derailed this already.
Yeah, it's going to be one of those sessions, isn't it?
Yeah, well, it's about standard for us. Yeah. So, Joe, tell us and our listeners a little bit about yourself and what you do. You're quite a podcasting expert aficionado,
I've got
aren't you?
4 on the go at the moment.
Podcasts.
Yeah. I've got a commentary podcast called A Hamster with a Blunt Penknife, which is
we
the
like that
most popular of the 4.
Can I ask where the
no,
from?
Jeff! You know where it comes from!
Really? And you run a Doctor Who podcast?
Mate.
Shameful.
Jeff. Episode
can't
4,
remember.
Androids of Tara, Tom Baker's 4th Doctor, and K9.
Well
K9's trying to blast a hole in something in the castle of Count Grendel, and the Doctor takes exception to that, and he says, "You do better as a hamster with a blunt penknife," or something like that.
Yeah, I figured it was a show quote, but I don't know which.
It's the
which
fact that I got some poor bugger to sing that song with that lyric. And then every guest that comes on now, I make them just introduce it once in one episode. I have to say this bullshit.
Every time.
Yes,
Yeah.
please.
But to be fair, it was a long time before Jeff was born, so we'll give him that.
That is true.
He's
a very young-looking
youngster.
man.
A young geezer.
very, very young with grey hair.
The sanest and the most handsomest of us all as well.
I like Joe.
Joe's my new friend.
There we go. So there's that one. I've got a Star Trek podcast called Untitled Star Trek Project because we just couldn't think of a title for it, and that's commentaries on any Star Trek episode from any part of the franchise, from TOS up to the latest Star Trek. So it's covering a lot of ground. What else do I do? I've forgotten. Oh, I've just started a Buffy podcast with Martin Hamill called Bite Me. We're only 2 episodes in. I'm in love already.
Oh, actually, I might have seen that pop up on my Twitter feed
that,
somewhere.
I'll have to have a look at that. What are you doing for that? Are you rewatching stuff?
We're rewatching and just doing sort of half-hour little critiques. Okay. Plus lots of personal memories. You know that Buffy's all about the horrors of being a child and what you go through. So we're just we're using it as sort of therapy. So we talk about our own horrors of our own child. Yeah.
I love Buffy. It's great, and I'm going to drop a hot take here, but I felt Angel was more consistently better every season of Angel.
Oh, do you know, I hated Angel. I couldn't get off with it at all, no. It was like Buffy with all the fun sucked out of it, sorry.
Ooh. Yeah, it's true, it was quite dark, particularly in its 4th series, but I felt that it just sort of, I don't know why. Like Buffy was always like 5 out of 5 for me. 5 by 5, I should say. But Angel was like 6 by 6.
How is it
that was your thing?
You're doing a Doctor Who podcast and you cannot figure out where a line comes from. Yet you've just quoted a line from Buffy the Vampire Slayer to me. And what's the last one? It eludes me. Oh no, fuck me! I do that with my other half. I should have remembered that one. That's called Finish Big. And we're going through. Listen to this: the entire run of Big Finish. Every
entire run
in consecutive, because the
my goodness
insane arsehole has got them on the shelf downstairs, not like in consecutive order of ranges. No, in release order.
Wow.
So we're going through every
impressive.
single one. And
that is impressive.
I'll tell you what, we're sort of halfway down the second shelf at the moment. It's a floor to ceiling bookcase down there. And the early Big Finishes are very good.
I like them.
Really good.
Yeah. I think I was collecting them in order up until around 130-ish, I think, and then I kind of lost my way a bit, and now I'll just kind of dip in and dip out. But those early ones, I was like an early subscriber. I was like in there because this is new Doctor Who. There's no Doctor Who on the telly. Give me some of that. And what we're talking about is was it like the Whispers of Terror, the Sirens, whatever it's called, and the Spectre of Lanyon Moor, and what's that? There's a Dalek one, isn't there? By Nick Pegg.
Is there a Dalek Big Finish? Are you kidding me?
I know.
There's 3 shelves of them.
No, it's the first one they did, which I think was the mutant phase, wasn't it? Which I think is awesome.
Yeah,
it's really good. Really good.
I struggled to think of a release they brought out in the last 10 years that's any good, but we're not anywhere near there yet, so we're in safe hands at the moment.
I know more recent stuff. I'm not as old as Paul, so
you cheeky monkey.
I haven't listened to all of the the first sets of releases stuff, but the Unit series has been really good.
Oh, you do like that, don't you? I haven't listened to
that.
Isn't that being spearheaded by Gemma Redgrave?
Yeah.
Does she display a single emotion in any of those stories?
No.
Oh dear. She struggles to do that, doesn't she?
Yeah. It's she is largely consistent and uniform across it, but it's quite a lot is powered by Osgood. I love Osgood. The other characters and stuff. And there's been some. It's all been great, really. Kate Manning was in one, and they've had various other people from the show. I think Alex Kingston was in one. Yeah, it's really good. I like it a lot.
I'm being completely facetious. Of course, they brought out good stuff in the last 10 years. I was just trying to be funny. That's
but there is a lot, isn't there? We've talked about this.
It's too much to keep up with.
Can't keep up with it. I can't afford it.
Do you know what? I'm renting a house, and I looked at that shelf the other day. I could have bought a house with the Big Finish stories that are on that shelf.
Easily.
Or at least put down a healthy deposit.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, well.
There you go.
The curse of fandom.
I know.
Yeah, that's it.
It's a shocker, isn't it? It's an absolute shocker when you have to pay for stuff these days. I don't know. Just want it all for free.
I mean, we're bloody mugs, aren't we? We bought the VHSs, then we bought the DVDs. Now we're buying the Blu-ray. I mean, what's next?
Do you know what? Actually,
3D,
you're right.
3D
because
hologram versions.
it's the thing, right? So, I mean, we're talking just before we started recording. I know rewind it. We're talking about putting your pictures of things on Facebook, what I received, and of course I did that in my season 20 Blu-ray. But what I didn't put on right was when it arrived.
You're
and I
the
opened
problem,
it,
all right. You're the problem.
it is me. I hold my hands
He
up.
started it. He
It's
started
the
it.
thing, right? So I got it. So it arrived on Saturday, and I opened it. I'm like, yeah, it's my new thing. It's my new thing. So I opened it, and my wife was right in front of me. And normally with these things, I open them in secret, so my wife doesn't see. But she was right in front of me with this one. She saw it. She opened it. And she goes, "What's that?" I went, "Oh yeah, new Doctor Who Blu-ray collection." She looked at it. She saw Peter Davis on the cover. She goes, "That's an old one." I said, "It's not an old one. It's not. It's literally brand new. I pre-ordered it like 6 months ago." She goes, "It's an old one. You've got them all on the shelf up there. We haven't got any money. What are you doing? What are you doing? Buying this stuff? How much did it cost you?" I went, "Well, I'm going upstairs with my Peter Davison. I'm sticking around for this." She had to right old pop at me. I kid you not.
Is that what your wife sounds like?
Yeah, she totally
mate.
sounds like that. Yeah, that's when she's in a good mood. She won't listen to this.
As
She
a
will never
complete
know.
side note, can I ask you both? You mentioned children. You mentioned a wife. Are you both heterosexual men?
We are both
I have
heterosexual,
never
middle-aged
been
white
on
men.
a podcast with two heterosexual men before.
There you go, my friends.
Woo! Maybe some of it will rub off. You never know.
You never know. Oh dear. So bringing it
What
back then to
about? Oh, that, yeah.
that,
okay.
that whole thing, that weird obsession that we all have in common, regardless of our gender, our sexuality, and everything
quite.
else, and all of that. So.
It's the great unifier.
It is,
Yes.
absolutely. Or at least it should be. Whereas sometimes it seems to be the great divider, because I like this kind of Doctor Who, and I like this kind of Doctor Who, or I only follow that bit of Doctor Who, and blah, 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 and all that kind of stuff. But I think, to be fair, that's probably minority factions.
Yes.
I certainly hope so.
I hope
Yes.
so as well. Otherwise, the world is in a bad place, I think.
I think, like, you just hear those voices because they shout the loudest.
They do shout.
I think that's it, yeah. And as we've seen, people are reluctant to speak up sometimes, for fear of getting shouted down, particularly if they like, a certain Doctor or era, and but the tide slowly seems to be changing there, I think.
That's what I've loved about doing Hamster is that it's sort of celebrating Doctor Who, all of it. So I've managed to find that one person that loves every story: the Twin Dilemma, Underworld, the Saranga Conundrum. I've done them all.
Yeah.
And to be able to find all those people that love 13, Jodie Whittaker's Doctor, and the Chris Chibnall era, and just celebrate that because I love it, has been really, really... By the way, on a side note, I'm not coming out after Chibnall, am I? Don't do that to me.
Thinking about this now. No, I mean, you will be after Chibnall. It might be
Jesus,
straight after.
Your
So you
numbers
might
are
be
going to
alright.
take a knock, mate, I'll tell you. All right.
What are you talking about? We're hoping they're going to spike with you on, Joe.
Yeah.
Honestly.
The graph will never have gone down more dramatically. But that was fantastic. Just in episode, that was such a fantastic interview. Well done.
Thanks, man. Appreciate that.
That was great.
If you can see, actually, here, look,
Uh-oh. You've started it now. You've opened that can.
this
Oh,
was
he's got
actually-
Jodie. Oh,
and
she's
Mr.
lovely.
Mr. Chibnall gave that to me.
I'm more curious about those pink post-its that are on your wall behind you there. What's going on there?
Oh, so I had a couple of friends in for a meeting last week, and one of the guys runs an app for car sales, and we were discussing his video, and he didn't want to go on camera, so we essentially bullied him into agreeing to go on camera, and those were the notes about why he should go on the camera.
You know when you ask a question and you're hoping that the answer's going to be really interesting.
Yeah! Was I looking suitably interested there?
Oh yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
I've got that down pat then. I've done 600
You've
episodes.
got
so
that.
I'm
You should be a pro at
perfect.
that by now,
Yeah.
Joe. I'll tell you.
Yeah.
The fellow who came on the... Oh, sorry. I'm not. I'll shut up. You go.
You crack on, mate. We don't mind. We'll just sit here and read a book or something. You just take it over. I don't mind.
I was just going to say, the fellow who came on the other day, and he goes to me beforehand, he goes, please just laugh at my jokes. It's the first time he podcasted. Please laugh at my jokes. So I thought, oh, Jesus Christ. I've had a lot of 11-hour shift at work. I do not want to sit there. We're doing 6 episodes of The Mind of Evil. Please, God, I've got to do this for 3 hours, be funny. And he's pre-warning me that he's not. He was bloody hilarious. You know what? He had that quick, you know, when you can just come back immediately with a great
straight
answer.
Yeah.
I was just sitting there seething with jealousy throughout the whole thing. Anyway, sorry.
So we're joined by Mr. Jack Alexander. Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
How are
very
you?
Good, thank you. Pleasure to be here with you both.
But pleasure to have you.
Oh,
Thank
so
you for
kind.
joining us. Yeah, you got the message then about what to say. So good start.
Yeah,
The money's
I was
in
going
the
to say
post.
my bank details are in a DM, so just
Yeah, saw that. Yeah. So, Jack, why don't you tell us and our listeners a little bit about yourself and what you do within the Doctor Who sphere, Who-nosphere. That's a new word I've just coined.
oh, it's nice. Yeah,
It is now. And it won't be ever again.
you just wait. It'll start appearing on merch, and then you'll start getting salty and say,
yeah. Here's the proof that I coined it.
"Well, I am, as you say, Jack Alexander. I'm a regular talking head on Twitter, as many of us are for that great show that we love." I co-run the Doctor Who podcast, An Awful Lot of Running, where we do a lot of debate and discussion. We have an actual debate style show as well called Battles of Fandom, which basically has a bunch of Whovians on having sort of like a debate fight and hilarity ensues. And and then we just try and get a few, try and get people on from the community to come on and chat to us. People that have worked on Who as well. We've had Sophie Aldred, such as yourselves, of course.
Yeah.
And Joseph Lister as well has been a very good friend to the show as well, and come on as well.
Yeah.
And that's basically me.
Brilliant. So how long have you been doing it all with your podcast?
We started sort of early 2021. It was sort of a response to lockdown, which I think a lot of podcasts were. I mean,
guilty.
It's like everyone and their mum started a podcast after lockdown. Yeah. So, I mean, my mum's podcast isn't about Doctor Who, but...
Does your mum do a podcast?
No, she
Seriously?
doesn't know. But...
Right, you have me going there. I just believed him. Look at that. He's got such an honest face.
It'd probably be about something like Strictly Come Dancing or something like that. So, I listened to the last 5 minutes of it just to be ready for Doctor Who,
Yeah,
of course. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So how's the podcast going then? You quite happy with the kind of the format you've got, the way people are engaging with it?
Yeah, I'm looking at. We sort of both are looking at how we can sort of advance things. The trouble is that you throw a stone in the ocean, and you're going to hit a Doctor Who podcast. Is the thing, aren't you?
Yes, there's a lot.
And the fact is, there's a lot, and there's a lot of good ones, such as Who Corner to Corner, which is a fantastic show as well.
He's earning his money tonight.
He got that message as well.
So the thing is, I listen to excellent podcasts, and I constantly think, that's fantastic. How can I up our game? What can I do to make things better? So we've had a sort of had a bit of a break period, a sort of an unplanned hiatus where I've sort of been taking stock.
Yeah.
And hopefully we're going to hit things with a renewed sort of front come October into November for the 60th. So
Yeah, that'd be good timing for it.
It's good, isn't it? How have you found it with the sort of, I say lack of new content? There's always content around there somewhere, isn't there? But obviously with no new episodes, I must admit, we've found it at times a little bit challenging to think, what can we do next,
I'll let you in on a secret, Jack. If we have an episode commentary come out one week...
It's because we can't think of anything else.
We haven't got there yet. I mean, we've been joking about wanting to do an episode commentary for a while.
Yeah.
Sort of a big one for me would be I'd love to do Love and Monsters would be a good one. Just because I feel like it'd just be a good riff track because it's I'm very much one of those people that think it's a 10 out of 10. unironically, I love it. I really do love it.
Yeah,
But there's a lot of fun to be had with it. So, yeah, we're also looking at my co-host Robin's sort of new into classic Who. He's only seen a splattering of stuff I've shown him before, but he's started the pilgrimage, if you will. He started from an unearthly child, and last time I spoke to him, I think he was at the Romans.
Respect.
So he's done pretty good. Yeah.
Yeah, I was watching that a little while ago. Actually,
you
it's
also,
it's
yeah,
great
the-
fun. I was
on the
really
box set.
enjoying that one. Yeah, yeah. Then
Definitely one of my favourites.
I got waylaid by Resident Evil 4 and haven't gone back to the set, so I need to fix that and get back on it.
What you buying,
Absolutely
stranger?
shocking.
Resident Evil 4, apparently.
Yeah, but that's a very good impression. Yeah, I got a selection of nice things for sale. And I've got that voice, even though I have it basically on mute with the subtitles on because I'm too scared to play it.
That was
Just,
me when I
read-
played
read-
the
I'll just read
original.
a little book while you two crack on.
Yeah,
about Resident
same.
Evil, you know.
Yeah, you just sit this one out for a minute with your little diary there. When I lived at my parents' house, we lived in the middle of nowhere, surrounded by woods, and playing Resident Evil 4 on the GameCube maybe. Bloody terrifying, especially when I'd realise, no one else is in the house tonight. I'm on my own.
Oh, exactly the same. My parents live in Devon, so it was very much the same sort of atmosphere, woods around us.
Yeah.
Oh, maybe that's enough for me tonight. That'll do. Let's play some Mario Sunshine.
11 o'clock curfew. Yeah. Brighten it up a little bit, yeah. Right, so Jack, I'm going to kick it off tonight with you need to get into Resident Evil, Paul. They are so good.
I played one of them. I think it was Resi 3. I think I played.
Yeah, that's great as well.
More of a FPS kind of game, isn't it? I think is that the one. When I think it's in Africa or something.
That's 5.
That's 5.
Is that 5?
Yeah,
Really?
the first person ones are 7, which is in the Louisiana kind of inbred house thing, and Village, which I actually felt Village was probably the best in the series because of the variety of creatures in it.
It's fine.
Anyway,
Jeff and
Jeff
and I are just going to start a Resident Evil podcast. It's fine.
Yeah, do that. Yeah.
So tell us about your art and your involvement in the Doctor Who community with that, and your adventures that have come from the art.
Become a thing now. So I'd been doing art for I started to get more seriously into digital art in the beginning of 2018. That was when I got my iPad. I'd been researching about whether or not I should get one for a year, and I finally was in a job that allowed me to afford it. So I got more into fan art once 13's era aired, because I had always wanted, this is just me fulfilling a dream. And it's just I've always wanted to do a Disney style kind of drawing.
That's the word I would use for your stuff. Yeah,
and that's always been what I would strive for, just because I loved that style and I wanted to be able to emulate it, while also still it being my own thing. And so that's that was what I always dreamed about throughout college, and was never really able to quite pull off. And there was, for some reason, I just got so into 13's era, and then after Arachnids in the UK, I started off not wanting to ship 13 with anyone. I went into this era going, no romance, and then Arachnids in the UK happened, and then kind of left me with no other choice, because I was they're not going to go anywhere near the Doctor's attraction to women. And then I was oh, here we are.
Maybe they might.
So then I couldn't think about anything else. It just changed my brain chemistry. So it was a mixture of all of that made me, for some reason, it really motivated me. And my first drawings of them, I did portraits of everyone in the fam. And that was the closest I had ever gotten. And I don't know where it came from. I had never been able to draw like that before.
Really?
Oh wow.
Yeah. So my first drawing of 13, that is not anything that I was drawing before for some reason.
Yeah.
but there was something, I think maybe just because 13 is so animated, just herself, like maybe that was what made me want
maybe.
to
That's
kind of
interesting.
try to capture that.
Yeah.
Because I think that expressions are so important when you're drawing, and it takes me sometimes a really long time to get the right expression, and 13 has so many good ones, and I just wanted to like be able to do those, like be able to capture that. And so then it just kind of evolved from there. I did one Thasmin drawing in like 2018 or 2019. And I was like, it was the first time I'd ever drawn like queer fan art. So I didn't know like where like the line, it was just them like staring at each other. It was nothing like intense. But I was like, I don't know where the line is, like, because I wasn't on Twitter, so I didn't know like much about like how like Mandip interacted with fan content or anything like that. She had shared my first ever drawing of Yaz. She shared on Instagram, which was really cool.
Wow.
That was a very good day in 2018.
That was a high.
Yeah, and because of the time difference, I usually wake up to it, and so it's like always a very nice way to start the day. You peak right away, and then it's all downhill. But yeah, so I was like, I never tagged her in like my Thasmin stuff because I didn't know if it was something she was cool with or whatever. And then I think it was like a little bit of like internalized homophobia, and then also just the general like attitude of like people who ship Thasmin were like crazy, like, oh, there's nothing there kind of thing. Like I was just like, this is just a for me thing. Like it doesn't need to be a whole thing. So I kind of fell out of Doctor Who like after my mom passed away in October of 2019. So and there was actually like an emergency with her while I was working on a 13 Doctor drawing.
Oh my goodness.
To like commemorate I was drawing like 13 making her Sonic as like a way to commemorate like the first year. And then my mom actually she was already in the hospital, and they ended up calling us around like midnight while I was working on it to decompress, and it was a whole thing. So I couldn't draw for a while after that. And I especially couldn't touch that drawing. So it took about 3 years before I finished it, and I finally finished it last year. I just like redid it. But yeah, I kind of fell out of it after that because a mixture of that, and then also, sorry, my phone is ringing in the background. I don't know if you can hear that.
No,
we still have a house phone.
That's a break the moment.
Yeah. But I fell out of it, and then Frozen 2 came out, and that became like my hyperfixation because it came out like about a month after my mom died. So like that was what I fixated on. And that was what got me through like most of lockdown and stuff before the vaccine came out. And then Flux started, and I was sucked back in immediately. Like I loved Flux so much. The Halloween Apocalypse like got me so excited for it, and then the rest of it was just so fun. And then throughout Flux, I was like, I think they're gonna do something with Thasmin. Like they're doing like like there are many hints, and there already have been hints that like that's what they're doing. And and then Eve of the Daleks happened, and then cue my intense drawing hyperfixation of 2022. And I drew so much that year. Drawn less this year because I got kind of burnt out. But yeah, that's kind of how it all started. And then I did a Thasmin drawing in 2022 that Doctor Who ended up sharing, and that was the first time that I was like, oh, people like my art. Like I knew that people like followed my account or whatever, but for some reason it didn't occur to me like I was seeing people who had followed me, and they were like, oh my gosh, like I love her art, like I'm so excited and blah, 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 like to see this on here. And I was like, oh my god, people are happy for me, and they don't even like know me. Like it just like didn't occur to me that that was like possible. And so it kind of just changed my perspective on it a little bit, and it was a very special thing. And then I just kept drawing more. Mandip's shared and liked some of my stuff, which is cool. And then I was the last Fan Art Friday of 13's era.
Oh,
So
well, claim.
coming up on the year anniversary of that.
Yeah.
Because I drew like a poster of her, Yaz, and Dan, because I was like, we didn't get one of just them, even though Dan's not in the episode, and I knew that he wasn't really going to be, but
Like, to draw him anyway.
I just wanted to draw them anyway. So yeah, they ended up sharing that as well, which was really cool. And I ended up in the magazine too that month.
Yes, I thought you had. Yeah. That's so good.
That worked out really well because it's the last one with 13's logo on it, and it had like the Basman cover. It's best moment. It was great.
I mean, that's a connection right there, isn't it? That's a
it's
brilliant.
Published in DWM. That's great. Yeah, your work is so good. It really is. It's kind of Disney style, whimsical, kind of fantastical, and
full of character. Those little moments, they just feel loaded. You just want to jump in. You really do. They're so good.
I love looking at all the different stuff you've done. It's just really, genuinely, it's brilliant. Well, that's why we asked if you do something for the little project we're working on, because just it's so good. So I'm looking forward to seeing it. It's gonna be really good.
I'm excited too.
Well, our first question for you is the big one. How did you discover Doctor Who?
Through my friend Paul Quinn, who had the Doctor Who program guide and used to read me the synopses. And go, and any Doctor Who story, anything, name a terrible Doctor Who story, the Web Planet, that's controversial. It all sounded amazing. Coming from his mouth, it sounded amazing. The first episode I watched was Battlefield episode 2. So I came in right at the end of the classic series, age 9. I think a 9-year-old back in the day is a lot younger than a 9-year-old now. And the cliffhanger to that episode scared me so much, I was convinced that Sophie Aldred had drowned in that tank. My mother said to me, "You're not watching any more of this. You can watch it again next year." And that's a line I've been dying on for the rest of my life. So obviously it never came back. I got the VHSs. I bought some of the New Adventures. I definitely bought the Big Finishes. And I mean, from watching Battlefield, that really, it just got me. There's something about it was exciting and scary and got me. So anything I saw after that with Doctor Who, Target books, the magazine, I bought. And the great archaeology of discovering Doctor Who, piece at a time, began.
I think it's brilliant, because you came to Doctor Who in McCoy years as well, didn't you, Jeff?
Yeah, I did. I've talked about.
You were a little bit younger,
a bit younger, I think. But I can remember watching Silver Nemesis on TV, and it finishing, and being down in Cornwall at my grandparents' place and wanting to go and watch it, and my dad saying no, and my gran saying, "Oh, let him watch it, dear," and running off down to the living room to go watch Doctor Who. But it's interesting that when it finished, you went and did your digging and found Target books and things like that. And I said to Paul before, the show finished, and until the TV movie came back, I didn't know anything else existed.
Wow. It was the TV movie that started your great archaeology?
I sat down to watch it, bought the VHS of it, and then, obviously didn't come back, and I thought, oh, okay, well, that's that then. And then it was, Eccleston returning. Oh, Doctor Who's back again, second time I'll go watch that. But when I started watching it then again, and kind of fell in love with it all over again, then I started discovering, actually, there's far more to this. So it was quite funny how, particularly kind of pre-internet, it's harder to sort of get into things a bit, isn't it? And you obviously had the kind of wherewithal to think, I want to find out more about Doctor Who and go and investigate it, but I just didn't know of it in that way. I knew there was other Doctors because I'd seen reruns, I guess, but the books and audios, just...
I'm astonished, that Mrs. Remington in Silver Nemesis episode 3 wasn't enough to get you unearthing Doctor Who from that point on. I was talking to a friend the other day, though, about the sort of the paths that you discovered Doctor Who, because my mate binged it all on streaming services.
Oh, really?
And obviously I put it together via, I don't know, Hal Stammer's Walker's books, the magazines, the books, and all of that. And I think the way I did it means, and sort of over time, means it really sticks in your head. All the details stick in your head because you put it together like a big puzzle.
Yeah.
When you binge it in 6 months, and don't get me wrong, that's a perfectly valid way of enjoying the entirety of Classic Who. I mean, can you imagine that back in the 80s or the 90s, being able to watch the entire run?
I would have probably given my right arm for that, to be honest, because old episodes were quite rare, weren't they? You know, it wasn't really until they started bringing out the VHS range that we really had a chance to see them. Oh, actually, no, tell a lie. Before that, UK Gold, I think that was the first time I actually got to see a load of old episodes. And even that was kind of accidental because I literally just switched it on. We'd only had Sky for like, I don't know, a month or so. And UK Gold was a new channel. And I'm just playing around with it. And I kid you not, as soon as I hit UK Gold, the screen faded to black and up came An Unearthly Child, episode 1. I'm like, fuck me. I'm here. I'm sold on this now.
Was that those Sunday morning repeats?
It was, well, they used to show it during the week, episode by episode. And then on Sunday morning, they'd have the omnibus. They'd slam them all together, broken only by, ad breaks in between the episodes. So I used to watch it during the week, and then I used to set the video to record it on a Sunday morning, because there was no way was I getting up on a Sunday morning, not even for Doctor Who.
Well,
set my video for that.
I was just going to say, I've got a very vivid memory of having a fantastic night out in Brighton, a great shag, sleeping on Brighton Beach, catching the first train home, pissed as houses still, I'd drunk a lot, and putting that on at 7 o'clock, and it was Invasion of the Dinosaurs, repeat, the whole thing. And I must have been so drunk. Those dinosaurs look
I mean, there's a hangover cure, isn't it?
I was like,
Invasion of the Dinosaurs.
It's better than Jurassic Park. I knew how to live in the 90s, you know. Sorry, what were we saying?
I can't remember now. No idea. I'll tell you what else is quite interesting as well, actually, because I think you're right, Joe. That whole thing about piecing together all the different fragments of Doctor Who, because that's kind of similar in a way to mine. So I sort of became a fan in the kind of mid-80s, really. I'd sort of been aware of it, I think I've said, and then blah, 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 blah. Really became a fan with Davison and through Colin and Sylph and what have you. But, and in that period, in sort of 83, 84, I kind of went out to try and find as much Doctor Who history. I went on that archaeological journey, that you were saying, and found things like, the Peter Haining books, like Key to Time was my big one, and the John Mark Loffisher program guides, all of that stuff. And one of my projects at school was to build a database in computers, because we did computers.
Wow.
And I took that as my project, mate. I tell you, I've got my notes and everything written on those books, everything all detailed, and that kind of, you know what I mean, when you sort of
I can verify that.
but when you're sort of looking at program codes, and I think, I can catalog these, I can reference them by program codes, and it's kind of scary, a little bit obsessive, but I think all fans possibly have a little bit of that within them. At least that's what I'm hoping, because then it kind of vindicates some of my weird obsessions. So.
Well, you mentioned those books, the Haining books and all of that. Weirdly enough, what we've been doing, me with mine and you with yours, our podcast, is they sort of set opinion on Doctor Who stories back in the day, didn't they?
Yes, yeah.
The Gunfighters was shit.
That's right,
Invasion
exactly.
of the Dinosaurs
that
was
comes
shit.
from a Peter Haining book, yeah.
Ever since then, we've been systematically destroying those myths.
So when you're talking about the Gunfighters and shit, it's brilliant, the Horns of Nimon. I love it, you know what I mean?
Boy.
It's just...
I'll do a great soul deed,
Yeah, soul deed.
I think a lot of kind of fan, opinion on episodes.
You were going to say fan wisdom
often...
there, weren't you? I could sense it. I could see it in your eyes, Jeff. The word fan wisdom, the biggest oxymoron in the English language.
So fan bullshit, shall we?
Yeah. That's
perceived fan wisdom. I think is the take now, isn't it?
Episodes have a reputation sometimes, don't they? And I think quite often those reputations are not true. It's a bit.
Well, a lot of they're just opinions, really. That's it. And I think a lot of the problem is that we see it now on online, but obviously back in the day, before there was such forums, everything was done through the fanzines, and the fanzines were written by a relatively tight collective of very opinionated fans. We're all opinionated in our ways, but these guys got their opinions published, got them out there, and for young fans like like me at the time coming into that. I mean, I remember getting DWB, Doctor Who Bulletin, and there was another one, Celestial Toy Room, that was another one. And a lot of that stuff, because again, when I'm doing that archaeological journey, that's part of what I'm absorbing. So I'm getting all this stuff, like you're saying about, the gunfight is a crock of shit, Odds of Nymon and blah, blah, blah. And Shada was going to be awesome, but we never got to see it, and all that. All of this stuff, and they helped form my opinions before I saw those stories. And like I'm saying, it wasn't until I watched a lot of them on UK Gold or on VHS in the 90s that I thought, actually, this is good. Because you read the books, and the Target novels are one thing, and I think pretty much all fantastic, because they create worlds in your head that can never really be realised on TV in the old series. So there's always that kind of disconnect between what you imagined reading those books as a kid and what you eventually got to see on the TV, come later on.
Was there ever a moment where you read a Target book and then you watched the TV version and went, that looks way better than I was expecting it to look? I don't think I did it once.
I'm just trying to think now. I think the biggest disappointment I had was probably Planet of the Spiders. That was because Planet of the Spiders was a really special Target novel for me. I absolutely loved it. And in my head, that bit where they go to Metropolis 3 all happened in my street, because it's talking about a village, and I lived in a little town in the back arse of nowhere.
Bless you.
And it was like the whole Doctor Who and the Spiders procession and everything else, they all came through my street. And then when I got to see it on TV, and it was all very kind of stagey, and it was, and to be fair, I can handle the sets and the shonky spiders. That's not a problem. But what I really disliked was the actors' delivery of those lines. It was so, I found it, as soon as in the 70s you are given a job of acting as somebody from an alien planet, you've got to deliver it in a very certain way. Why, thou, we must not go there. Do not pass beyond those mountains, for their danger lies with the giant ones, or whatever it is.
Amazing, well done.
Pretty good,
I was
wasn't it?
transported there.
I felt as if I was watching 70s genre TV there for a second.
Yeah.
It's amazing how I just pull it out of the bag like that. Bang, bang, bang,
Mine
bang,
was
bang.
the Three Doctors. I remember that was described by Terrence Dix. Omega's lair, this vast cavernous space with flames, and then what do we get? A set from Crackerjack or something like that. I was like,
it's very glittery. But I think actually, as I've kind of got older and I've kind of looked at those, it really doesn't matter, does it? And actually, that becomes part of the charm of a lot of those old episodes. You can watch it and anything.
Have you seen what they're bringing out these days with fantastic special effects?
What's that, mate? Yeah.
I mean, I endured the entirety of the Stephen Moffat era, okay, and it looked gorgeous, but I'm not sure one of those stories made any sense whatsoever. It's the stories that matter, and that's what we realise as we get older.
Absolutely, yeah. That's
sure,
what pulls us in when we're kids, and it keeps us going when we're adults.
That's it. And you can't judge older shows and films and today's standards and saying, these effects are terrible.
But you're going to anyway.
Well, I suppose, sorry, I was going to say, you inevitably do, but you have to kind of take a step back, and that's what was achievable at the time.
You know what they're doing with the DWM polls, or they've just finished them now, where before they would put all the stories from 1 to whatever it is, and this time they broke it up into Doctors, and people are going crazy. How the hell can you compare the Battle of Ranskor Kolos and the Web Planet? I mean, they're made in different bloody centuries, for God's sake. You can't compare one to another.
No, it's so much of it, I think, comes down to your individual
personal enjoyment. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But I think one thing you can compare them on, actually, just thinking about that, is the kind of ambition of the stories. I mean, the Web Planet, which I do love it. I think it's a ridiculously ambitious story, and actually for what they had, a few bits of string, a few fag packets, and some loo roll tubes hanging around, they did brilliantly. And I think one thing that carries it through as well, and even going back to the an Unearthly Child, the Cave of Skulls, all the caveman stuff, which comes afterwards, is actually the conviction of the actors, because even back in those days it was still quite stagey, there was an authenticity to their delivery. It's like the guys really believed that they were there, and they brought us along it. They sold it to us, and just the delivery of it.
I did
They
a
didn't do it in
commentary
Planet of Spiders, though.
No, I did a commentary with Gary Russell on the censor rights. Somehow we talked about that for 3 hours.
Oh, I love the censor rights.
It basically became an interview about his career, actually. Because what can you say about the censor rights for 3 hours?
It's a good detective story.
Well, there you go. That lasted 2 seconds. Now you've got 3 hours.
And
Move on.
But he was talking about how, because the studios were tight, so the cameras are close, and there's an immediacy, like you said about the acting there.
Yeah.
So there is a sort of live feel about it, which gives it a bit of an edge. But you remember those old backdrops that Barry Newby used to do, the Aztecs, the temples and things like that?
Yeah.
Like you said, the ambition of it was staggering. The execution wasn't great, but the ambition was staggering.
Yeah, that's it. And and Doctor Who has always been ambitious. And I think actually when it fails to be ambitious, to push itself out there, that's when it stands a chance of becoming a little bit ordinary, a little bit samey. So I like the fact that it's always pushing.
Series 7 episode Cold War. I don't think
with the Ice Warriors
there
in the
wasn't
submarine.
An iota of ambition in that at all. Oh, sorry. Did you say you like that one? I
did like that. Yeah.
You say that, Joe, but nonetheless, it's the first time Doctor Who has been tried to be shot in something that looks a bit like a submarine. So tight set, fair. loads of water. Increasing tension. It's basically. It's. Not only is it a base under siege, it's a base that is. It is, isn't it? It's a base under siege,
it's a base under siege with an ice warrior during the Cold War. How is it so fucking boring?
Well, that may be your opinion, but I do rather like it. I'm going to put that one out there. I like it.
All of that's great.
You got Jenna Coleman in there with tons of water coming down. That's
anyway.
Oh, Jenna Coleman, talk about boring. Oh, sorry. We better move on.
This is where Jeff leaves us now.
Oh, no. Are you a big Clara fan?
I do like Clara, yeah.
Somebody has to be, don't they? Sorry. Okay, I'm going to shut up now.
This is going to be one of those sessions, isn't it?
So I'm going to ask you, how did you discover Doctor Who?
I'm a child of the wilderness years, so I was born 1991. So I was.
So you need to rub it in.
Everyone's younger than me.
I was.
Where'd you find these people, Jeff?
I curse my parents. I missed survival just by those couple years,
Oh, yeah.
But no, it was. It's a funny old story that does eventually lead me back to 2005, but. Initially, it was actually seeing trailers, and I think it was 99 for Doctor Who Night. So I was only 8 at the time.
Oh yeah, okay.
And I saw,
the one with Mark Gatiss and crew doing their thing.
So I saw that, and it was on. We were speaking about bedtimes just before we started recording with my kids, and it was on past my bedtime. So my parents put a VHS in and recorded it for me, and I remember they just literally half the audience just went, "What's a VHS?"
Yeah, I was just thinking, should we explain?
What's he talking about, man?
It's a tape that you could record TV shows on before you had Sky Plus and other stuff.
Yeah, and the internet.
Yeah. So they recorded it for me, and I didn't really understand all the skits and stuff. Like I was watching Mark Gatiss and David Williams kidnapping Peter Davison, which meant nothing to me at the time. Now I laugh my head off at it. But, I watched things like the last episode of The Dalek, and I think the TV movie was played again there as well. So I saw that, and then afterwards, a friend of mine told me in primary school that, they're showing these episodes of Doctor Who back on TV. They're repeats of things that happened in the 70s. That's cool. So I watched. They started repeating the season 7, first one. So I watched Spearhead from Space, and then the Silurians, and I have this weird sort of Mandela effect image in the Silurians of John Pertwee, the Doctor, walking into a house, and there being a close up on the back of a Silurian's head. And the Silurian turning around and facing him, and that being a cliffhanger. Yeah, but it doesn't happen. It's in 7 parts. That doesn't happen. So I can remember it so vividly, but it doesn't happen in the episode at all.
It doesn't actually happen.
Yeah, so
that's weird. There's got to be a name for that.
Yeah,
isn't there?
It's was it Mandala effect, where it's like a collective misremembering of things, isn't it? Like, it people sometimes say, "Oh yeah, I remember the Cybermen coming out of the Thames." Well, it was the Daleks, and when you meet someone and you're talking to them, and they say, "Oh yeah." For example, I love that bit in Endgame where Iron Man picked up Captain America's hammer, and you're like, that's not really what it was, but they're absolutely convinced that that's what it is, happen. And you're like, okay, go on.
Yeah, and that was it. And then I think they got cold feet then, and they jumped straight to the genesis of the Daleks or something like that.
Yeah, I remember. Or did they show the demons back then? Did they do that one?
I honestly, I can't remember.
Might not
I
have
know
been.
that all this sort of stuff is charted on websites and stuff because Doctor Who fans,
somewhere.
we love lists, don't we? So,
Yeah.
so it's there somewhere.
Yeah.
But so I remember then seeing parts of Genesis, and then I think there must have been something on Blue Peter at one point, and I remember Daleks in a Kit Kat advert, and I think seeing like the Peter Cushing films during like on like bank holidays or something like that.
Yeah.
And then it sort of went quiet for a bit until 2005 when I saw that Trip of a Lifetime trailer for the first time, and I went, "Oh, well, this looks good."
Yeah.
So I was already, I had, I knew a bit about Doctor Who, and I was primed. I was like, "Oh, this looks good. I'm excited for this." Yeah. So I sat down then, 26th of March 2005, 2 days before my 14th birthday, and I will always say it. I will always say it that it was the best birthday present I ever got, because I sat down there.
Oh, that's amazing.
We had a tradition of my parents and I having a takeaway, an Indian on a Saturday night, and I sat there, curry in front of me, and the end of roast, 45 minutes later, curry was still sat there. I hadn't touched the bite.
Oh, you hadn't touched it?
No, I was
really?
just, I was glued and I was transfixed, and that's been my life ever since, pretty much.
Yeah, fantastic.
That's really good, isn't it? Yeah. Imagine if we hadn't had the revival, your memories of Doctor Who would have been, just those imagined moments where Silurian, turn his head around.
They wouldn't even have been real memories.
Daleks.
I would have been saying, well, my favourite Doctor is Mark Gatiss. People would go,
Yeah.
And do you remember when he kidnapped Peter Davison? Well, Peter Davison was a Doctor. Was it really?
I didn't know that.
Really? But I think it's brilliant. I mean, it's one thing that I just love the fact that Doctor Who continues to bring in new people from all corners of the globe at all different ages, and it's bizarre. It's a thing to get your head around as you get older. That a lot of fans you speak to now, especially online, because you don't know them, right? They're like, I don't know, well, like you're saying, like 14, 15, or you know what I mean, like young, which is kind of just weird in my head. Because in my head, I'm the youngest of all the Doctor Who fans, but I'm not anymore,
Yeah, but when I think, like, the show has been back for nearly, half my life now. But, for you, Jack, it will be, a bigger percentage, won't it, that it's been present for you, and less for you, Paul, because you're older than both of us. But, yeah.
But it's mad to think that it's... what was it? It's almost 20 years.
It is,
almost 20 years.
Yeah.
Just 2 years short of
that.
I think
18
the original
now,
run went on for 26 years.
Yeah.
So, it's not far behind the original series in terms of its longevity. Although, I guess the original run had one every year, didn't it? Whereas... Have we ever missed a year in the revival?
Well,
I get the feeling
2016
we have.
they took a year off because there was too much exciting content.
The Capaldi, wasn't it? Yeah. Because we had the Christmas special after Series 9, didn't we? And then the following year, all we had was the other Christmas special.
So there was an episode in the year.
Then we had a series.
Yeah.
But
yeah. How did you discover Doctor Who?
So I believe that I think that this is what happened. Correct me if you know differently, but I think that there was like an influx of like American Doctor Who fans around my age in like 2012. So I was one of those. It was like peak Tumblr era, and I think it was like a mix of things. It was like the first thing I think I remember seeing was the ending clip of Vincent and the Doctor where they go back to the museum.
Yeah.
And I remember being really moved by that because that was something that I'd been thinking about for a really long time, how people just live their whole life without even knowing the impact that they make, like as creators. So like I was like really moved by that. And then also I just remember like seeing more of my friends get into it. And then I remember my best friend having posted like that she was watching her first Doctor Who regeneration. And so I finally was like, hey, what's that? And she told me, And of course, like Doctor Who's so hard to explain, so she was like, "You just have to like watch it."
Gotta watch it.
And so I got like this was how I first got Netflix. Like I'd never used a streaming service
Oh.
before.
It was on there, wasn't it?
Yeah,
It
yeah,
was,
it
wasn't
was.
it?
So I got like a free month trial or whatever, and then I ended up just like starting to pay for it so that I could finish watching Doctor Who. And at that point, it was only up till the end of season 6 was on there, and season 7 had already been going at that point.
Yeah.
So I caught up. Like, I actually started watching Doctor Who like just a few days before the 49th anniversary of it. I had no idea that I timed it like that. But like I just did it like a few days before that. So I was trying to be caught up by the Christmas special.
Yeah.
Because I knew that was a thing. So on Christmas Day, I bought the first half of season 7 on Amazon and like binged it. So I went through like all of the stages of grief with the pawns in like a 5-hour period.
Yeah.
And then the first one I watched live through like a sketchy live stream link was the Snowman.
Right.
So,
okay. Yeah.
so that's the story of how I got into it.
Okay. Yeah, so that sort of ties in with when like you said, the show was getting bigger in America, wasn't it? You know, like the Matt Smith
They took
years.
it out there, didn't they?
Yeah.
Like deliberately to try and rope you all in.
It
Yeah.
worked.
Say, look at this thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it did, yeah. So of your friends who were watching it then, are they still into it now, or did they, you know, drop away, or?
So, I feel like I need to mention that it was my friend Alexis who I remember seeing posts about it specifically, but my friend Lindsay apparently also talked to me about it in high school.
Right.
I don't remember that at all, but apparently it happened, so I feel like I gotta give her credit for that, because her and her sister were the first of us, like they'd been watching it for a while ago, like a long time, and so we ended up starting our Whovian family. And so we had like Whovian family Christmases, and we would make we always make have you seen like the Lady Cassandra lasagna that people make?
Yeah.
Like we make that every time we have one.
Oh my goodness.
And so it became like a tradition each year. We would have a bunch of Doctor Who themed food. We would dress up, do sometimes Doctor Who themed games, like we did charades and stuff. And then we would build a blanket for it and then watch the Christmas special or something together. So it ended up becoming like a group of us, and then we don't get to do the Christmases as much now because everyone's scattered all around the country and even the world. But I definitely like no one is on my level. I'm on my own for that, I think. Like I still have friends who have watched 13's era and like kept up with it, and I like showed my friend all of Flux and the specials and stuff before the Power of the Doctor aired. So yeah, like I still have friends who watch it, but I'm definitely like on a different level.
You're hardcore.
Oh yeah,
fan.
hardcore. Yeah.
I don't half love something when I love it. Like I go all in.
You go all in.
Yeah.
Best way.
It's nice hearing that you know, fans in America, you know, discovering the show and stuff, because it, you know, wasn't as easily available over there as it was over here, was it? You know,
it was kind of scattered on PBS, I think, in the old days.
Yeah, it was. I think,
my mom actually, once I got into Doctor Who, she was like, "Oh, I used to watch that like on PBS," and so she wasn't into it like I am, but like her doctor, she loved Tom Baker because I feel like he was on it for a really long time.
Yeah,
so that was mostly what she saw. So she got me like his scarf and stuff for Christmas the first year. I got a bunch of Doctor Who
that's so
stuff
sweet.
after I watched it. So yeah. So it's cool that it like brought more people into it.
Yeah, and hopefully, you know, later this year, more and more people will be able to get into it, because I
feel like it's gonna be a whole thing.
I think
be
so.
easier for people to get hold of outside of the UK. Yeah,
which is nice because it was very difficult for a long time.
Yeah,
and I still like, for up until Legend of the Sea Devils and The Power of the Doctor, I watched everything when it aired in BBC America, so like 5 hours after.
Yeah.
And so I had like the Master reveal spoiled for me.
Oh no!
I actually had like
Mm,
Eve of the Daleks kind of spoiled for me. I didn't know quite what
Yeah.
happened, but I did know that something happened and that
Yeah.
I was going to be happy about it. Like Legend of the Sea Devils, it was like a simulcast, so like I got to watch it totally live without knowing,
Brilliant.
and it was a big
Yeah.
like Thasmin episode, so
Yeah.
I was like in heaven the whole time. And then The Power of the Doctor, I made sure I was watching that at the
Yeah.
time it aired there, because there was no way I was
Yeah.
gonna
No,
have
no.
that spoiled.
If you can't watch it, you know, when something goes out live, either because you're busy or you know the time difference or whatever, there's steps to take online, aren't there? To
Switch your phone off.
well, switch your phone off.
Usually.
Like I've muted words on Twitter before,
Have you?
for a week or something, or you know, a couple of years ago when Ant-Man and the Wasp came out, I muted that for a month because there was a month difference between the US and the UK, and I didn't want to have any spoilers. And I've done
so
it with the.
difficult.
It is, but even then, you know, something will still slip through sometimes. I think it was a Walking. I got spoiled on The Walking Dead a little while ago, and it really annoyed me that I'd gone to quite good lengths to, you know, keep it hidden because I could only not what you know I could watch it the next day or something, and then I got spoiled that morning, even though I'd taken precautions to, you know, block it.
Like
all.
Eve of the Daleks admittedly was my fault, because I learned after the Master, like,
Yeah.
just don't even, for 5 hours you can't get on
Yeah.
Stay
like
off.
social
Yeah.
media.
Yeah.
So I would not do that, but out of like habit in that time,
It's easily done.
Mm.
I opened, I had like, even though I knew I wasn't going to get on, I always filtered the relevant words like
Yeah.
every Sunday or whatever. And so I just like absentmindedly opened like one of my social medias, and it like filtered everything in the timeline or whatever, but not the notifications. And so like
okay.
I would see people, I
Yeah.
like checked my notifications without even thinking, and then I saw a bunch of people like congratulating the Thasmin fandom in the tags of
Oh.
a post that
Oh.
like I'd made like a month before. I was like, oh, something
Yeah.
happened.
Yeah,
And then I had to like just wait
stay
until it
off.
aired.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was my fault, but
Yeah,
okay.
it's easy done, isn't it?
Mm.
But it, you know, despite how much kind of effort you might go to, you know, to avoid it. Do you have a favourite Doctor and a favourite era?
Oh.
What? I'm not a big fan of certainly not like ranking Doctors or any of that nonsense. But is there what one kind of speaks to you most? What one, you know, is the most comforting to you? And
What,
you know,
Doctor or era?
both.
Well, my
Ooh.
favourite Doctor is the Doctor who hates the question, "What's your favourite Doctor?" And that's Colin Baker's Sixth Doctor,
I was okay, I was
which
gonna
is
say, that'd
not
be
an
the
obvious
first.
answer.
Yeah.
But I was the right time to get the Trial of a Time Lord box set at 13 years old.
Oh.
And I watched it over and over again, and I fell in love
Yeah.
with his Doctor like you wouldn't believe. And I think he then went on to do the best work with Big Finish, revolutionised the
fantastic.
character. Then I started meeting him at conventions, and he was a fine ambassador for the show as well.
Yeah.
And just a raconteur and a wonderful man to be. He always gives me a kiss when he sees me.
So,
We might be having an affair, you know. Every time I see him,
An
it gets a
affair with
bit more
Colin
intimate.
Baker.
I mean, you know what goes on at these conventions. There's a lot of that.
I've heard.
Well,
I've heard,
That's
yeah.
how I met my
What goes on in
half, so,
Vegas
you know.
stays in Vegas.
Oh, Vegas? You go to Vegas conventions? I'm
Wait,
impressed.
he didn't bloody ask me, did he?
No. You'd have
Oh
to stay
no,
there, mate.
I brought this friendship to an end. I'm so sorry. And for the last episode of Who Called It to Call. Good night. No,
Agent provocateur, je Ford.
I love Colin, and I love
lovely.
his Doctor. I like the little journey he goes on as well, from, you know, his hands around Perry's throat to actually enjoying being with Bonnie Langford for a couple of episodes. I don't think he had long enough, and I do think a lot of his best stuff came after he left the TV show or was unceremoniously dumped from it. There's a lot of for the new series. It's David Tennant, which is a really obvious answer, but I really fancy him, so that's how.
Bound to sway it, is it?
Yeah.
And my favourite companion is Catherine Tate's Donna Noble. Can you imagine my reaction when I found out what's coming?
Yes, I can. Yeah.
I
Is your
basically-
reef still in place? Is that?
I basically came in my pants. I was so excited. And then with Russell T Davies writing it, which is my favourite era of Doctor Who, I was like,
There you go.
this is Christmas, birthday, Easter.
All
everything.
rolled up into
everything
one.
is- Many things are coming at once.
I know. Although I've heard rumours behind the scenes that Moffat might be back, so it could be soured a little bit as well. We'll
So
see.
you're not
Yes.
so much of a Stephen Moffat fan then?
No, I can tell you ain't listened to my podcast then. No,
I've dabbled in a few.
That's why I bring in lots of people that love it, though, so they can educate me and tell me where I'm going wrong.
Of course.
So I'm not above hearing that people love it, because a lot of the time we do those commentaries and I come away going, yeah, that's way better than I thought it was. So, chaps, if you want to come on and do Cold War, be my guest.
Oh yeah, we'll do that.
I'd be up for that. I'll convince anyone of its merits.
You just want to see Clara again, don't you? Getting wet. That's it.
Oh, but now I can see that appeal. Yeah.
He's gone. He's
It's
lost
gone
it.
somewhere. Do you remember that dress that she wears in Journey to the Centre of the TARDIS? That red dress.
The red one with the little flowers.
Doesn't she
on
look
it. Yeah.
beautiful in that? You know.
In fact, do you know, yesterday...
It's the first time
or
I've seen you
weekend,
smile, Jeff, for a long old time, to be honest.
I was in the mall in town with my kids, and they have these little glass cabinet stands for different shops and stuff in the centre of the thing. And one of them had a mannequin wearing an outfit that looked very similar to the one that Clara wore on the season 9 poster.
What
you know, where
happened
she's
to that
running with-
mannequin?
Just pan your camera around a little bit, Jeff.
I was
See
gonna
what's going on there.
Don't look in the corner of my room.
What you got holding up your door?
And I was going to take a picture of her and say, look, Clara, you know, it's everywhere. Then I thought, that's going to look really weird taking a picture of a mannequin in the middle of the mall. But
Just imagine looking at the CCTV for that one.
yeah.
What's he doing?
We've got a man in the back looking at the mannequin. Can you just take a close look? Yeah, he is actually taking pictures from all different angles. So what do we do? Better just call in the police, mate. Just get the fucker out of there.
I was gone before they could have stopped me anyway.
Yeah.
But as for eras, on television, this is not a popular opinion either. The Graham Williams era is my favourite era on
No,
television.
I'm happy with that. I'm more
Because
than happy with that.
I don't think the show was ever more inventive, more funny, and for the classic series, more sort of characterful. There's some brilliant.
Yes.
Amelia Rumford in The Stones of Blood is
Yes.
like my
she's
heroine.
brilliant. I
In
love her.
Cause of science, it's our duty to capture that creature. You know, I love it. So I love that era.
Yeah.
I think the most interesting era of the classic series is the 80s, just because in terms of quality, it's like Whiplash, isn't it? You
From
go
Earthshock to Time Flight.
Yeah,
that
it's
kind of thing.
bizarre. Oh, I mean, you can think of loads, can't you? Andrew Sarney to the Twin Dilemma. It's astonishing they are part of the same series, let alone the same
Yeah.
season. For the new series, it's those first 4 years where it came back and just wowed everybody.
Yeah.
Russell T Davies does something very right that the others don't do. And I'm going to include Chibnall as well, and that is that he remembers Doctor Who is not just aimed at Doctor Who fans, it's aimed at everybody, and so everybody watched. You know, and he remembers the kids as
He
well.
got it right. There's
The
no two
fans
ways
don't
about
like
it.
that he remembers the kids with burping bins and farting aliens, but they love that stuff, you know,
yeah, they
and
do,
so they
yeah.
all came flocking. And mind you, the fact that nobody got the joke about, I mean, they were a bunch of political windbags. That was the joke, you know, and everyone's going, "Oh, farting aliens." I'm going, "Oh, whoosh!" It's going right over your head, mate. So yeah, Rusty Davis for the new series and Graham Williams for the classic.
Colin's wonderful, isn't he? We've spoke to him on the podcast.
We had him on,
and,
indeed.
Yeah, he's great, and I'm a big fan of his Big Finish work, and particularly the trio with Mrs. Clark and Flip. as well.
Oh, they're the best, aren't they?
They're really
they're really
good.
good.
Yeah.
What was it? The Middle, Scorched Earth. Those
Yeah,
sorts,
that's it,
yeah.
yeah.
Static.
Yeah,
Static,
Static
yeah.
is
Well,
excellent,
you got me
yeah.
into those, Jeff, because
Yeah,
after
I did, yeah.
after we talked about them a little while back, I mean, I thought, yeah, I'm going to go out and watch these, get them. So I did. I downloaded a whole bunch of them, and of course we were talking to Miranda Raisin as well, weren't we?
Yeah, and Lisa
Raisin.
Greenwood as well.
Miranda Raisin.
She was fabulous as well. I remember listening to that one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and
Yeah,
Flip
she-
as well. We
she
talked to
was
Flip as well,
lovely,
didn't
yeah.
we?
Oh, Lisa Greenwood.
Lisa
It's still
Greenwood,
my
yeah.
heart. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, lovely. So completed that TARDIS trio.
So that
there
was Jeff
on the
Made then, weren't you?
podcast.
Really
Yeah,
talking to the three
yeah,
of
I
those
was chuffed
guys,
with that.
4 of those guys
So
even.
Miranda did say that they recorded, I think, earlier this year. So I'm hoping there's going to be another Sixie and Mrs. Clark.
And
set
do you know what? It's
soon.
being showed. There's Colin Baker stuff at the moment. It's being done by Jacqueline Rayner, who is the biggest talent that Big Finish have. They
She's
just
brilliant,
released
yeah.
a 4-box set featuring Imogen Stubbs and Ruth Madeley. It's doing everything that Big Finish is not doing right at the moment. There's no continuity. It's full of great characters. It's got a running story that's really engaging. And it's just subtle. It's not obvious. It's not, let's pull 15 characters out of a hat, stick them together in an audio and see if it sells. It was just a genuinely well-written thing. So I think we've got good times ahead for Colin on Big Finish.
Yeah, good. Oh, I'll have to have a look at those. I saw them. I thought this sounds interesting, but it's not Mrs. Clark, and my allegiance is with that trio. On your recommendation,
it's Bonnie Langford though. Good grief!
yeah. Well,
There you go.
Bonnie's back. I live quite
Bonnie's
near Pease
back.
Pottage. So yeah, Pease
She was
Pottage, not too far.
Busy mates with my ex-father-in-law, so we crossed
she really?
swords a few times. Yeah,
Ah, fantastic.
he was a choreographer, so it was all showbiz talk.
Oh,
I got
yeah,
very
yeah.
bored
Yeah,
very
yeah.
quickly.
So, Jack, have you got a favourite Doctor and a favourite era? One that sort of resonates the most with you. Not asking you to give a best to worst because we don't believe in that kind of thing.
Oh, I
here.
completely agree.
We don't do that.
I agree
here.
with you.
We don't
Totally
do it.
agree.
Yeah.
There
They're-
is no
they're
best
all
or
awesome,
worst.
but
They are.
Yeah.
It's like people sometimes ask me to rank Doctors, and I never could because for me,
Yeah.
they're all in God's tier. They're all amazing.
Yeah.
Every single one of
Absolutely.
them.
we have one or two, I guess, that are the ones we're drawn to a bit more, but. I love them all, and I enjoy all of it. I can't bear this thing.
We love them all,
this is the worst one. No, they're not. I don't.
I was
don't agree with
literally just earlier today. I was watching and I don't like him anyway. But it was a Watch Mojo video, and they were counting down the worst to best Doctors, and
Oh yeah.
and it got Colin very last, and I was like, nope, I'm done. I can't watch this. I can't watch this. So.
I protest.
But I suppose my favourite Doctor is David Tennant's 10th Doctor because it was the one I grew up with the most. Chris was my first Doctor, obviously, but he was the one series, and I loved him, and I didn't think anyone could. I knew the long history of the show by the point of the end of series 1. But
okay, so were you surprised by that? Did you know what was coming?
Yeah, I knew a regeneration was coming because I knew he wasn't coming back, and I knew David was coming in, and I think I watched Casanova at the time as well, younger than
I always have
I've
as
seen
well.
that.
Yeah, just to suss him out, see what it was like.
Yeah. And I was like, I'm not sure, and then he came onto the screen, and it's definitely. He's my favourite modern Doctor, I would say, whereas Sylvester McCoy's my favourite classic Doctor. I love the Machiavellian sort of dark approach.
Yeah.
I mean, Ace is my favourite companion as well, so it's sort of it goes hand in hand there, really.
Yeah. Sophie's great, isn't she? She's a lot of fun to talk to.
Whoever said never meet your heroes has never met Sophie Aldred because
Quite right.
My God.
Yeah, she's brilliant.
Well, we'll come on to your meetings with cast
yes.
a little bit. So I can probably guess this, but tell us which Doctor and which era is your favourite, or which is closest to you.
I gotta think about that first.
Yeah, we'll get back to you.
No, definitely 13 is my Doctor, and her is one that I really love. Before her, 11 was my Doctor, and I still feel like a connection to him.
Yeah.
Like 11 and 13 were the Doctors through very intense times in my life, and so that's part of why they're so special to me. But I thought I knew what it meant to have your Doctor until Jodie showed up, and then I was like, oh no, this is what it feels like this is different. Because she was the first time I actually really, I think, got to see myself in the Doctor. So I had kind of fallen out of it a little bit just from being in college and just having it not being as accessible, having to wait for it to get on Netflix and stuff.
Yeah.
So I kind of fell out of it during Peter's era, but I made sure I watched The Woman Who Fell to Earth, and thank goodness, because it changed my life.
Did it really?
Imagine
Wow.
having missed that one. So yeah, Jodie is definitely my doctor.
Do you have that kind of thing, Paul? Because I love all the Doctors, and I really was a Big 10 fan, but then and I really enjoyed 11 and 12, of course. But then Jodie came along, and just something kind of clicked there, and it made me love the show more than ever, and something about her portrayal and the hope and the optimism and everything. It's sort of fairly immediately she was my doctor, and it's strange really, having watched it for so long and loved it all, but then it just clicked completely.
It clicked into place for you. Yeah.
What about you, Paul? I mean, you don't tend to, you do love Jodie
No,
stuff.
I'm an emotional blank wall, so I don't tend to get that connection. I'm also, sad to say, I'm also incredibly fickle, in that as much as I love the Doctor who is right there on TV, as soon as they regenerate and there's a new Doctor, I'm like, yeah, who's a new person? Who's that? I want to find out about them. I want to see their adventures. And it's not that I forget about the old ones. They're always going to be there. Those adventures, those stories are never going to go away, and they're locked in place. But I want to see what's coming next, and I want to be with that new. It's always a new and exciting new Doctor, usually.
Yeah, I've noticed you're like that, whereas I can't move on. So
it's because you're stunted that way.
Yeah.
It's like Doctor Who puts you through such a specific
emotional
journey every few years.
Maybe that's why I don't like to get involved in it, actually, because I tend to shy away from these kind of deep feelings, as much as I can, because I'm just not capable. I'm not equipped to deal with those sort of that cycle of like losing something that I love so much, and then to find it again, and then to lose it again, and then to find it again. So now I just sort of say to myself, well, I love all Doctor Who, and then it's easy, because as long as Doctor Who continues, I'm there in it, and I'm emotionally stable. So that's me, I think. Wow, psych evaluation right there. Look at
you keep telling yourself that.
It's true. Yeah.